Why do the smartest people keep falling for the worst relationships? The answer lies in a groundbreaking discovery by Carl Jung. The human brain is designed to love what causes it pain. This is not due to weakness or a lack of willpower. It is the result of profound psychological mechanisms operating in the unconscious, a realm where conventional reason cannot intervene. If you find yourself wondering why you are consistently drawn to the wrong people, read on. I will unveil the 8 hidden psychological mechanisms behind this addiction to toxic love. Discoveries that could completely change how you understand love and yourself. The brain's faulty programming from childhood. But isn't this just a way to shift blame instead of taking responsibility? To answer this question thoroughly, I want to share the case of a female tech CEO I once consulted. She was someone who could face down investors with unwavering resolve, persuading them to commit tens of millions of dollars. In the boardroom, she could fire underperforming employees without batting an eye. With competitors, she negotiated like a fearless warrior. Yet, this same powerful woman sat in my office, crying like an abandoned child over a man who wouldn't even return her texts. "I don't understand," she said through her sobs. "Why can I confront anyone in business, but with him, I become a little girl begging for attention?" A discovery by Jung reveals that the human brain operates on a principle of contextual partitioning. It doesn't apply a single, uniform set of rules to all situations, but creates separate rooms with entirely different regulations. In her workroom, the CEO had full access to her leadership and decisiveness because that environment not only permitted but rewarded these traits. But in her love room, a completely different set of rules, molded by early messages about femininity, became barriers preventing her from expressing her strength. These rules are not learned consciously, but are absorbed through thousands of small interactions in childhood. A stubborn daughter will never get married. Men prefer gentle women. You need to be a little softer. These seemingly harmless phrases create fixed neural pathways in the brain, automatic algorithms that operate without conscious intervention. The brain learns. Strength at work brings success, money, and respect. Strength in love leads to loneliness, rejection, and emotional failure. Jung called this phenomenon the projection of the animus. According to his theory, every woman possesses an inner masculine aspect that represents decisiveness, logical thinking, and leadership. When these aspects are suppressed in a specific domain, they don't disappear, but are projected onto others in that domain. The CEO was unaware that she was seeking her own repressed strength in emotionally distant men. Her brain created a rational narrative. He's confident and decisive, just my type. Encountering someone who embodies these repressed aspects triggers a potent chemical reaction. A flood of dopamine creates a feeling of euphoria. Oxytocin is released to foster a sense of bonding, and fluctuating serotonin affects her mood. Biologically, the brain cannot distinguish between meeting a missing part of myself and meeting my true soulmate. Both generate the same chemical signature, the same feeling of destiny. Jung's purpose is not to encourage blame, but to foster understanding for change. Once the CEO understood this mechanism, her transformation began. She learned to express her decisiveness in love, not with aggression, but with the same calm steadfastness she used in business. The result? The men who needed a weak woman to feel strong automatically disappeared. In their place, men who cherished feminine strength began to appear. The addiction to being chosen. Doesn't everyone want to feel special? Why is this a problem? Beyond childhood programming lies another subtle psychological trap, which Jung termed the scarcity complex. In the collective unconscious, the psychological layer we inherit from millions of years of evolution, lies a fixed archetype. Scarcity equals value. This mechanism was once vital for our ancestors. Scarce food had high nutritional value, and a hard-to-win mate often had good genes. But in modern society, it has become a dangerous psychological trap. I witnessed this when I overheard a conversation between 2 young women at a cafe. One said excitedly, "He could have anyone, but he chose me." When asked how he treated her, she replied, "Sometimes he's sweet, sometimes he's distant. But I get that he's a difficult person. The fact that he chose me proves I'm special." This is a flawless illustration of the scarcity trap. The brain lacks the nuance to distinguish between hard to get because they are of genuinely high quality and hard to get because they are psychologically unavailable or simply uninterested. The neurochemical reaction is identical in both cases. When someone who rejects many others gives you their attention, the brain interprets it as a victory in securing a rare resource. This feeling of being chosen triggers a potent chemical cocktail. Soaring dopamine creates a sense of achievement. Norepinephrine is released for a rush of euphoria, and a dose of cortisol from the stress of competition enhances every other sensation. The brain regards this as a natural high and wants to experience it again. Jung distinguished between two entirely different motivations. The ego's motive, I want them because having them makes me feel valuable. And the heart's motive, I want them because we create something wonderful together. In the first case, you don't love the person. You love the feeling of accomplishment from the conquest. In the latter, you love the connection and the potential for mutual growth. An alarming pattern Jung observed is that those addicted to being chosen often lose interest once the chase is over. Why? Because their brain was never truly attracted to the person, but to the challenge of conquest. A patient once confessed, I only pursue women who have many other options. When I win them over, I feel complete. But 6 months later, when they are completely mine, the excitement fades. The danger of the chosen feeling is that it creates constant anxiety. If you were chosen from among many, you can also be replaced. This creates a never-ending cycle of insecurity, effort, and exhaustion. Jung pointed out that people in this pattern are often haunted by obsessive questions. Am I good enough? Is there someone else they're interested in? These are not the questions of love, but of competition. Jung believed that true love is collaborative, not competitive. Finding oneself through others. If love isn't about finding your other half, is the concept of a soulmate meaningless? The problem extends beyond an addiction to conquest. Sometimes a toxic attraction stems from a deeper need. Jung didn't negate the concept of a soulmate, but he pointed out that we often misunderstand it. I once observed a young woman tell her friend, I've never felt so complete. He has everything I lack. I'm a shy introvert, he's a confident extrovert. 6 months later, she lamented, he wants me to be spontaneous like him, but that's just not me. This is the tragedy of shadow projection, the phenomenon of being intensely drawn to the very traits we have suppressed in ourselves. But this is not a healthy attraction. It's a form of psychological dependency. Jung explained that when we project our shadow onto someone, we are, in effect, falling in love with an idealized version of ourselves, not their true being. The difference between admiration and need is critical. Admiration inspires you to develop those positive traits within yourself. Need creates dependency, making you rely on another to feel whole. That young woman didn't truly admire his confidence. She needed it to escape her own insecurity and shyness. Jung emphasized a crucial point. When you project your shortcomings onto someone, losing them is not just losing a lover. It feels like losing a part of your soul. Without him, I feel like I go back to being the boring, shy person I hate, she said. This is a clear sign of projection, not true love. The unconscious mechanism works like this. He has what I lack, which leads the brain to create a powerful feeling that is then mistaken for fated love. In reality, this is merely the psyche's attempt to reclaim its own lost parts. Observing her case, I saw that she never truly got to know the man himself. She was in love with the idea of him, the one who represented the confidence she craved but had not yet cultivated in herself. Jung asserted that only when we can love ourselves can we genuinely love another. An incomplete person will always love from a place of lack, needing someone else to fill their inner void. This places immense pressure on the other person and ultimately destroys the love. The transformation occurred when she began to develop her own confidence after the relationship ended. The result was fascinating. She attracted an entirely different type of person, men who didn't need her to be incomplete for them to feel needed. A true soulmate, as Jung said, is not someone who completes you, but someone who inspires you to complete yourself. They mirror back the best parts of you, not the parts you have abandoned. The body learns that suffering is love. Doesn't love always involve some pain? Why is this abnormal? From seeking our missing parts, we move to a more dangerous mechanism. The brain begins to equate love with pain. Jung spent years refuting this toxic belief by making a clear distinction between the pain of growth and the pain of self-torture. A patient once described her current relationship with a look of both agony and ecstasy. "He drives me crazy. One day he's sweet as an angel, the next he's cold as ice. I never know what he'll be like. But when he finally pays attention to me, there's no feeling like it." When I asked about the times he ignored her, she replied, "I cry, I lose sleep, I can't focus on anything, but I know it's because I love him so much." This is a classic example of how the body learns that suffering itself is the expression of love. According to Jung's explanation, the body learns to associate pain with love through neuroplasticity. If, as children, we witnessed or experienced dramatic love models, parents fighting and then passionately reconciling, or receiving attention only when we were in trouble, the brain will encode the message that love is synonymous with pain. Jung called this a flawed engagement with the shadow. The victim part of the unconscious is nourished by drama because it creates a feeling of being cared for. Many people unconsciously learn that only when they are suffering are they worthy of love and attention. The unconscious learns a fixed pattern. Tension causes adrenaline to spike, creating a feeling of being alive. Then reconciliation brings a surge of dopamine, creating a feeling of being loved. And then the cycle repeats. The brain mistakes these intense chemical fluctuations for the expression of true love. Jung provided a very clear criterion for differentiation. Meaningful pain leads to a deeper understanding of oneself and the other, creating lasting and sustainable intimacy. Meaningless pain simply repeats the same cycle without any progress or growth. For example, arguing because of different views on the future and working together to find a solution. That is meaningful pain that helps both partners understand each other better. Arguing because one person repeatedly hurts the other with no intention of changing. That is meaningless pain that only causes damage. A profound insight, Jung pointed out, is the shadow loves drama because it conceals inner emptiness. When there is no conflict and drama, people are forced to confront the difficult question, who am I when I'm not suffering for someone? Many people fear the answer so much that they unconsciously create drama to avoid self-reflection. My patient eventually had a profound realization. I didn't really love him. I was addicted to the feeling of tension, the swing from pain to happiness. When he was cold, I felt like I was dying. When he was sweet, I felt like I was being reborn. I had mistaken this feeling of rebirth for love. The desire to heal the father wound. Why the focus on the father? Isn't the mother just as important? The origin of programming, pain is love, often traces back to the family. And for women, the father figure plays a special role. Jung did indeed study the influence of both parents, but the father complex has a distinct characteristic in the female psyche. While the mother complex often relates to how we love and nurture, the father complex relates to how we perceive our self-worth through the eyes of men. I had a patient who was always attracted to cold, emotionally distant men. "I don't understand," she said. "My father was the same way, always critical, never satisfied. I hated that feeling. So why do I keep seeking the same thing?" Jung found that the father is the first embodiment of the masculine in a daughter's life. How a father treats his daughter creates the first template for how a woman deserves to be loved by a man. This is not just about love, but also about recognition, validation, and acceptance. The strange thing is that daughters with unresolved father issues often don't avoid men like their fathers. They actively seek them out. This is the mechanism Jung called repetition compulsion. The psyche's desire to reenact an old scenario with the hope of rewriting the ending, of winning this time. The unconscious operates on a hidden logic. If I can make a man just like my father love and cherish me, it will prove that I am worthy of love, and it will erase the pain of the past. Jung explained that this isn't about a daughter wanting to replace her mother in her father's eyes, but about wanting to heal the wound of not being fully validated by him. This mechanism operates by projecting the father's image onto later relationships with astonishing accuracy. If her father was cold and unaffectionate, a daughter might be intensely drawn to cold men, hoping this time I will make him warm and loving. If her father was critical and hard to please, she might seek out critical partners, hoping this time I will make him satisfied and proud of me. The fantasy, this time I will change him, is extremely seductive and powerful because it allows us to feel a sense of power and purpose. It creates the feeling that we are doing something meaningful, saving someone, proving our worth. But Jung warned that this is an unwinnable battle because we are trying to heal a past wound by changing another person in the present. The telltale signs of the father complex are clear. You feel a constant need to prove your worth to men instead of being naturally accepted. You are attracted to difficult, distant people because the challenge makes being loved feel more meaningful and valuable. My patient eventually had a breakthrough. I didn't really love those men. I loved the feeling of victory when I made them pay attention and care. But that's not love. It's trying to heal my relationship with my father through them. Jung proposed that instead of trying to change the men outside, we need to heal our relationship with the inner father, the internalized image of our father in our psyche. This means learning to give ourselves the recognition, validation, and appreciation without needing confirmation from those who resemble our father. The need to prove oneself special. Isn't wanting to save someone a sign of kindness and compassion? From the effort to change someone to heal our own wounds, we move to a more subtle illusion, saving others to prove our own worth. This is one of the most dangerous illusions I often encounter. A patient sat across from me, her eyes shining, as she described her current relationship. He has a tragic past. Everyone else gave up on him, but I see the good inside him. I will be the first one to truly understand and save him. When I asked about herself, her answer was telling. I don't know. I've never thought about it. I'm just focused on helping him. Jung called this the savior complex, a subtle yet powerful manifestation of the ego. When we over-identify with our social persona, the ego can seek to affirm its value by saving others. This creates a powerful sense of importance and purpose, but it is actually a way to avoid confronting our own issues and emptiness. Jung made a very clear distinction between helping from love and helping from the ego. Helping from love stems from genuine empathy, expects nothing in return, and respects the other's freedom of choice. Helping from the ego always has a hidden motive. I will be the only one who can save him, which proves I am special and valuable. The mechanism works like this. Upon meeting someone who needs to be saved, the ego immediately spins a compelling story. They just need to meet the right person, and I am that person. This feeling is extremely powerful and seductive because it allows us to feel important without having to confront our own difficulties and shortcomings. A discovery of Jung's is that people with a savior complex tend to avoid their own inner work. Focusing on saving others becomes a perfect way to escape the need to save and develop themselves. It is a sophisticated form of denial and evasion of personal responsibility. The most remarkable thing Jung noticed is that the unconscious often purposefully chooses impossible projects. Why? Because deep down, the ego knows that if it fully succeeds in saving someone, the illusion of being needed and special will shatter. When you truly save someone, they might leave. But as long as you are trying to save them unsuccessfully, you can maintain that feeling of importance and being needed indefinitely. My patient had been through 3 relationships, all with troubled men who needed to be saved. I don't understand why I keep meeting people like this, she said, bewildered. After a period of deep exploration, she discovered a painful but liberating truth. I feel completely worthless when nobody needs me. When he's stable and happy, I'm afraid he'll realize I'm not special at all. Jung offered a simple yet profound criterion to distinguish. In true love, you want the other person to become the best they can be, even if it means they may no longer need you. In a savior complex, you unconsciously want them to remain dependent on you to maintain your own sense of importance. The fear of real love. How can you fear the very thing you desire most? Just like the illusion of saving others to avoid oneself, there is an even deeper fear, the fear of real love. This is perhaps the most profound and painful paradox Jung explored about human love. A patient once told me, I always complain about not finding real love, but when I think about someone truly loving me, all of my ugliest parts, my weakest moments, I feel a bone-deep terror. Jung called this the fear of intimacy. One of the largest and most difficult barriers in the psychological development process he called individuation. Real love requires us to dare to be vulnerable, to have the courage to allow another person to see the parts we usually keep most hidden. Jung's explanation is that when we live behind our social masks for too long, we gradually forget what our true selves look like. Even worse, we begin to fear that true self. The greatest fear is not that no one will love us, but that when we are fully seen with all our flaws, fears, and dark sides, the other person will leave. If he knew what I was really like, the patient confessed, knew my dark thoughts, my selfish and petty moments, he could no longer love me. No one could love the real me. This is the perfect psychological trap the unconscious creates. We choose people who are unavailable or uninterested because this allows us to yearn for love without ever having to face the terrifying reality of actually being loved. We can maintain the illusion that we want love, while in reality, we are running from it. A distinction Jung made, both clear and profound, is between obsession and true love. Obsession is driven by the ego and creates a sense of compulsion. I must have this person at all costs. True love is driven by the authentic self and creates a sense of free choice. I choose this person and want to build something beautiful with them. In an obsession, we don't truly love the person, but the idea of them. In true love, we love the actual person, including their flaws and imperfections. The addiction to the unknown. If life were predictable, wouldn't it be boring? The fear of being truly known and truly loved pushes us into one final trap, the addiction to uncertainty. This question reflects a deep misunderstanding of the nature of love. Jung made a very clear distinction between predictability and emotional safety. A relationship can be completely emotionally safe while still being full of surprise, growth, and mutual discovery. A patient told me about the repeating pattern in her love life. I'm always drawn to people who keep me guessing. One day they're caring and affectionate, the next they're distant and cold. I never know where I stand with them, and I hate that feeling of insecurity. But I'm strangely addicted to it. Jung discovered an astonishing truth. Obsession and love have entirely different neurochemical signatures. While obsession is driven by intense and unstable fluctuations of dopamine, adrenaline, and cortisol, true love creates the gentle stability of oxytocin and serotonin, bringing a sense of peace, warmth, and sustainable happiness. When we haven't completed our psychological development, the ego needs drama and intense stimulation to feel alive. Jung said that uncertainty and insecurity create a kind of natural drug that the brain can become addicted to. When he doesn't text me back, the patient described, I feel like my heart is going to stop. But when he finally replies, that feeling, nothing can compare. I feel like I've come back to life. Jung called this the addiction to rebirth. The brain learns that the near-death and revival cycle creates extremely powerful emotions, and it mistakes the intensity of these emotions for true love. Jung's analysis showed that when we haven't completed the process of individuation, we often feel empty inside. Emotional drama becomes a way to fill that void. It's better to be in pain and feel something than to feel nothing at all, another patient once told me. Jung distinguished between positive mystery and toxic ambiguity. Positive mystery stems from a person's depth. Toxic ambiguity stems from a lack of commitment and immaturity. Mystery invites you to explore deeper. Ambiguity leaves you lost. When I was with easy-to-read people, she confessed, I found them boring. But now I realize easy-to-read doesn't mean simple or shallow. Maybe they're just mature enough to be honest about their feelings. The transition from drama addiction to appreciating peace is one of the greatest challenges. We must learn to fill the inner void with self-awareness instead of relying on external chaos. My patient started with a small experiment, dating someone she knew clearly cared for her. The initial result? I panicked. With no drama to occupy me, I had to face myself. But after persisting for some time, something magical began to happen. I started to appreciate not having to constantly guess and worry. I could relax and actually get to know him as a person. Jung said that when we stop needing drama to feel alive, we open up space for a much deeper and more soul-nourishing kind of intimacy. True love creates peace, not chaos, he wrote, and in that peace we can finally truly grow. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And perhaps the journey to find true love is that very same journey. After all, toxic love is not fate. It is the result of not having completed the journey toward wholeness, the process Jung called individuation. The 8 causes we have just explored all share a profound common denominator. We seek on the outside what we have not yet found, developed, or accepted on the inside. When we complete the process of individuation, we no longer need to love our projections onto others. True love can only happen when 2 people have become relatively whole in themselves. Not because they are perfect, that doesn't exist, but because they have become honest about their flaws and no longer need another person to feel complete or worthy. When you no longer chase the shadow of yourself in others, no longer need their choosing you to validate your worth, and when you dare to face intimacy instead of fearing it, that is when true love becomes not only possible, but natural and sustainable. Love isn't about finding a missing piece to complete you. It is the journey of completing yourself so that you may then, with another whole person, share and build a path together, a journey more beautiful and meaningful than what either could create alone. You are not alone on this journey. This article is proof that there are answers for your pain and that healing is entirely possible. Join hands with Love and Psyche to build a stronger, more conscious love community. Like if you believe that we deserve better relationships. Share so this message can save a broken heart out there. Subscribe to join the journey into the profound psychology of love and turn knowledge into the power to change your life. Together, we will rewrite the definition of love. Be a part of that change.